Welcome to our first boredom-sated done from home. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Boris.
We are continuing our series on
social distance.
Yeah, well, obviously we are social distanced as we are currently approximately 30 miles apart from each other.
We take it to the extreme.
Anyway, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to continue our conversation about the four character classes that will be added in the Advanced Player's Guide. The Advanced Player's Guide for Pathfinder 2, remember, is going to be coming out in August. We have already talked about the Witch. We've already talked about the Oracle. We had positive things to say about the Witch. We had negative things to say about the Oracle. And now we're going to talk about what I think is both of our favorite of the four.
Definitely. It is definitely my favorite.
And that
class,
is the Investigator. The Investigator is a lot of fun. So, Boris, do you want to talk about the basics of the Investigator?
Sure. The Investigator is an intelligence-based character. The very first thing I want to say, it is really designed for a role-playing type of environment. If your GM or your game is more into combat and dungeon crawls, this is probably not a very good character for those. But if
it'll still work. It'll still work.
It'll work. It'll definitely work. It's just it really shines when there's interaction, intrigue, politics, maybe investigation, those types of things.
Amazingly enough, the Investigator is good at investigating.
You would be surprised based on the title, but yes. So the basic start for the class is it's an expert in perception. It's trained in fortitude, expert in reflex and will. It gets the society skill set, which you need to be investigator, as from your standard Sherlock Holmes or any type of private eye.
What skills it gets doesn't matter. List the intelligence plus how many?
It's intelligent plus 6.
Yeah, so intelligence plus 6 would be okay. I mean, it's not intelligence plus 8, but it's intelligence plus 6, remembering that this is an intelligence-based class. There's only like 15 skills in the game anyway, and you're still going to get another one from taking your background, and you can get more skills if you want to with other abilities here. The other thing is that this class also skill-wise, like the Rogue, gets a skill point every level starting at 2 instead of every other. And they don't get a skill feat every level like the Rogue. They do it a little differently. They get a skill feat every other level like everyone else, and they get a skill feat that you must take that's based on either Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma on the odd levels. So you still get a skill feat every level, but you can't take combat-based ones every level.
Right. Which is, again, why I'm saying it's more of a role-playing intrigue character because of that.
Absolutely.
Not that it's weak in combat. So beyond that, it gets your standard, all the standard items. It's an 8+ your Constitution modifier type character, which means it's more towards the martial rather than the spellcasting classes.
It's the middle ground. You're not a wizard or a sorcerer. You're everybody else that isn't specifically a martial character. You're that middle ground.
Right. Yep. So then let's just jump right into the class features.
Yeah.
It has the take the case, which is once every 10 minutes. You spend 1 minute to establish a case you're going to pursue. An intense investigation to a single subject you designate when you use this activity. So pretty much you can, it's not just, it could be an individual, and in which case you would get a +1 circumstance bonus on all checks related to the checks or the individual. So if there's a vampire you're trying to search and you're trying to investigate, you would get a +1 circumstance bonus to all checks related to that investigation.
And as you get higher level, it goes up.
Yes. And you can utilize this +1 check, also in combat with certain skills later.
Yep. It's an excellent base ability. It's very cool to be able to work with that. Then there's a follow-up ability called Clue In, which again, once per 10 minutes. It's a reaction, but it's and another creature attempts a check to investigate the subject of your open case. You share a bit of your information discovered in your investigation, and they gain a circumstance bonus on the trigger equal to your circumstance bonus on the checks to investigate your subject.
Yep.
So it basically means that if you're playing a game and you want to, role play with other people, you can do that and help them in the investigation. You can use teamwork. I know. It's weird. It's different. Playing a role-playing game where you're actually having a conversation with each other and not just fighting together. But
yes.
It works.
Yes. It's like a minor bard ability.
Well, honestly, it's just as strong as the bard abilities. As anybody who actually know, during the interim, we will be playing our own little game that we're not recording because it's not going to look good enough, and considering our other stuff. Anyway, never mind. The point is, I'm playing a bard in it, and I promise you, the bard abilities are not that good.
Oh, okay. So now let's discuss the methodology.
All right. So
you go first. You tell me which one you like.
Well, before I say that, I just want to discuss what they are.
Oh, yeah.
So
go ahead.
Methodology is your choice. Like every other class, most other classes have a choice as what you want to do. Like if you're a barbarian, you choose what kind of path you're going. I'm a giant. I'm a dragon. That kind of stuff. Sorcerer, you choose your bloodline. Wizard, you choose what you're doing, or you go universalist. All that. This is your choice for that. You determine one of 3 methods of play, which is a lot of the classes do. Your first method of play is you are a mini alchemist. You get the alchemical skill feats. You can make potions. You can make potions on the fly, just not as well as an alchemist and not as many as an alchemist. So you're a mini alchemist. This plays very similarly to the way that Pathfinder 1 did the Investigator, as Investigator was one of my favorite Pathfinder 1 classes to play. You get a special ability in that one, which basically is the equivalent of Quick Alchemy, which allows you to make potions on the fly to use them. The second one is the Empiricism Path. The Empiricism Path gets you an extra skill point, and it makes it so that you can, once every 10 minutes, do a seek or sense motive check as a reaction. This is a huge ability, and Empiricism is definitely the way you want to go if you're really going straight into that I'm role-playing, screw everything else plan. So the Empiricist is awesome for role-playing. And finally, Forensic Medicine. Forensic Medicine basically says, you want to play a healer but not actually have any spells? Well, here you go. You make your battle medicine better. You get to add your level to battle medicine checks, and your battle medicine only makes it so they're immune for an hour instead of for a day, unless that's a skill feat that you take later. I don't remember. What is it? You're trained. Yeah. The feat that you get, Forensic Acumen, is what does that. It's a very cool way to be able to play it. Again, it's more of the if you're gonna go with playing the in combat version of a Investigator, you probably go either the Alchemist or the Forensic Medicine character. So, but all 3 options are good, and they're good for different things, and it's really based on how you want to roleplay. So now that I've explained the 3, Boris, why don't you say which one you like the best? Even though I I think I already know.
Yeah, I'm a huge Empiricism. Because I'm into the role-playing aspect of this character, and it's, in my opinion, it really gives you that that benefit to the whole role-playing reason that an Investigator's around.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I love all 3 of these. However, what I said with which decision would I make if I was going to play this build is I would probably go the Forensic Medicine build. But that's just the way that I play. It's more towards my play style than it is towards anything else. Depending on how other people in my game were playing, I could go with any of the three and be perfectly happy.
Yeah, it's all. I totally agree that all three are in line with a really great character concept, but there's always a personal choice favorite.
Yep. All right, so the next thing we need to talk about, just because this is different from every other character class, is Studied Strike. So when you strike, so basically Studied Strike is if you're attacking someone who you are benefiting from the bonus for Study Suspect on, which is an ability that we gained earlier, basically, you do precision damage, the same way rogues do precision damage. This only applies if you strike with an Agile or Finesse melee weapon, Agile, Finesse unarmed attack, or a ranged weapon or a sap. And the damage goes up every couple of levels. Now, that also does include Study Suspect is another first-level ability that you do get. It takes one action. You assess a foe for weak points in combat. You attempt a perception versus their will DC. If you succeed, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to your attack. If you critically succeed, all of your attacks get that bonus instead of just your next attack. And it's until the end of this turn. So it's one attack instead of two for success versus critical success. But Study Suspect has other things that are going to come in later. It's very similar to the way that, again, it worked in first edition Pathfinder, where if you took the feats for it, you could basically get bonuses to hit and damage if you studied someone first, but you could only do it a certain number of times per day. This is not as strong, but you can do it as often as you want as long as you can use the concentrate action. But remember, concentrate action means if you're in melee and someone has attack of opportunity, you might be screwed.
Yep. Just about the Studied Strike, it's it's exactly the same increase in dice as the sneak attack for the rogues. So you'll both max out at 5.
It's very strong. It's very cool. I really, really like the way they did it. I mean, I'm pretty sure both of us are really on line of this is a good character class.
Yes.
I hope they don't nerf it when they actually come out in line in August, but they might nerf it a little bit. I don't think it's so overpowered. I just think that it's good.
No, I also agree. The only issue, which we will discuss, is in the feats, there's a couple of levels where I wish they would add more feats to give more choices to some of the other options rather than just limiting. But beyond that, it is a really good character class.
Which brings us to feats. What first level feat did you like most for your character overall? I mean,
on the
you're not
scene.
picking a specific character.
Yeah, on the scene.
What does that do?
I really enjoyed. When you enter a new location, such as a room or a corridor, you immediately notice one thing about the ordinary. One thing out of the ordinary. The GM determines what it is and lets you know. Again, it's more in line to that role playing.
Oh yeah.
And it's also beneficial in dungeons too. Entering a new room, something's weird. The GM could choose to let you know that something is out of the ordinary and there could be a trap in here.
Absolutely. I love on the scene. I think personally for a character, depending on what my goal was for the character, is whether I would take on the scene or the one that I decided to pick just because I had a feeling you were going to take on the scene. I wanted to give another option, which is Underworld Investigator.
They're all good. I mean,
they're all pretty solid.
Yeah, the first level, I think, really the way I would like to see every level feats. The problem is a few feats at the higher level, they're just limited to 2, and they don't give options to all the different choices. Yeah, so
Underworld Investigator, what it does, just to make sure, is you are familiar with the criminal element. You might be a criminal yourself, or you might have just gained an understanding of how they operate. You become trained in underworld lore. Getting new lores is difficult, so getting trained in underworld lore is nice. You gain the Take the Case circumstance bonus on thievery checks to investigate the subject, such as steal a clue from the suspect or pick a lock to open a safe with damning documents. I like that idea. I think it's very cool that you can gain bonuses to thievery that way, because I think that actually adds a completely different type of role-playing aspect to the way this character would work.
I totally agree.
So, at level 2, what did you take?
Level 2, framing case, which allows you to splinter so that you can change cases. And if you're trying to follow somebody, and all of a sudden somebody else is interested, and you're not sure whether you should continue doing one thing or another, it lets you switch between the two, which I think is a benefit. Again, it's more role-playing.
Yeah, I like framing the case. I personally went with Trapfinder because I'm assuming there's no rogue in my party. And I assume that I need to take over those duties, which means that having Trapfinder is fantastic. Since I'm probably also taking Underworld Investigator, I'm going to be good at thievery, and this is just going to make it that much better.
Right. But just to do a side note, there are a couple of feats here that do relate to combat that do make you better. For example, no weakness, which was at the first level, which is really beneficial. And the reason that I want to talk about these and also combat clue is just to let you know that this character is designed to be efficient in combat. It's not just role-playing, but it really shines in a role-playing environment.
That's true. It's true. There are definitely bonuses you can get from using these feats in combat. We're just talking about what we like the most. Like, he's going specific to more role-playing, and I'm going to a little bit of a role-playing and, I'm going for less of a role-playing and more of a other situation thing because trap finding is just really, really helpful to have.
Yes.
All right, level 4, now we finally get to a choice which is going to be probably based on our methodology.
Yes.
So what did you take at level 4?
So level 4, it was a close call, but I went with predictive purchase.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very cool. Predictive purchase is definitely the Deus Ex Machina.
Yes. It's all of a sudden you were smart enough to anticipate on having the right item in your backpack for this exact circumstances. So if you come to a mountain and you didn't have climbers and nobody brought anything to climb, oh, thank God we had an investigator. He brought all the climbing tools we needed.
Yeah, it is very, very cool.
Yep. It is limited that you can only have a normal item of up to half your level, but by the time you get the 4th level feat, that's pretty much most useful items that you can use that are mundane.
Yeah, absolutely. There's several good ones at this point. I finally took one that actually did help me in combat here. I went with Scalpel's Point. Scalpel's Point, when you study a suspect, you can attempt a medicine check against the target's fortitude DC instead of the normal check. The results are the same, but with the addition that any strike gaining the bonus from that use of study suspect also deals a d6 bleeding damage on a critical success. Now, it only works on a critical success, but it's neat to be able to do something like that. Now, I might go with that. Studied assessment is also quite good. There's a lot of fun ones at this level.
That was my the close second choice. Yes, study assessment. Yeah.
Study assessment, you learn your foe's strengths and weaknesses by watching them. The first time you critically succeed on a check to study a given suspect, the GM chooses one of the following pieces of information about the enemy to tell you. A weakness is highest. Which of the enemy's weaknesses is highest? Which of the enemy's saving throws has the lowest modifier? If the enemy has an immunity, one immunity it might have, or if they have a resistance, what is the highest resistance? Yeah. They can choose one at random, or the GM can pick whatever they want to do. Again, it's a combat thing. It's very neat, and you need a critical success for it, so it's not exactly something that's going to happen all that often.
And it's great for those GMs that say if you pick up the Bestiary book, you're going to get penalized, so you can't take a look and know what the creature you're having.
It's also no fun to do that anyway. Come on.
I know, but some people do it.
Level 6.
Level 6. Thorough research. And even though this is a really good skill, this is where I think at 6th level and beyond where I would like to see more feats related to each individual specialty not so much as more general feats, which I think the general feats are good. I just would like to see more feats related to the methodology that you selected.
I can see that. Now remember that, it'd be nice to have some things like that, but at the same time, the methodologies are so different that the additional feats would be difficult to come up with. But I also think some of these feats are not that great, in my opinion, anyway. Now, the thorough research is if you succeeded at a recall knowledge check, you learned an additional fact about the subject.
Right.
Recall knowledge is something you have to call for, and again, it's a very role-playing heavy thing. A lot of games don't even use it unless you specifically ask to do so. Now, the one that I picked here is accurate study. You can focus your most successful analysis on your suspects for one accurate attack. When you critically succeed at a check to study a suspect, instead of the usual benefit, you can choose to gain the following benefit. On your next attack against this target, you gain a +2 bonus to your attack roll. Now, why would you do this? First action, study suspect. Second action, attack. Third action, attack with only a -2 penalty instead of a -4. I like the idea that the second one might actually hit.
No, it's a great combat feat, and like I said, there are feats throughout the whole investigator class that really make them good in combat.
I will
Not
be completely
great,
honest,
but
though.
good. Yeah.
I don't like any of the 6th-level feats that much. I don't think
I
any of them are good.
I agree, and that's why I said I would like to see more methodology-related feats.
And 8th level is not much better.
Right. It was a close call. I went with Clue Them All In, and I was actually even thinking of grabbing Studied Assessment from level 4, but I think Clue Them All In is the better choice within out of the 8 feet, 8th level.
It's another good role
so
playing.
Clue them. Yep. You can clue in all your allies at once when you choose the clue in reaction. So this way you don't have to just either select one or two. You give everybody the bonus.
Yeah, so it's basically makes something you get for free stronger, and it makes it so that the whole party can be involved instead of just one other member.
Yep.
It's not bad,
Definitely.
But it's not really good either. And the other choice really isn't that great either, which is Blind Fight.
Yep.
So what Blind Fight does is say your battle insights make you more aware of concealed and invisible opponents. You don't need to succeed at the flat check to target concealed creatures. This is great if you're actually fighting any concealed creatures. You're not flat-footed to creatures that are hidden from you, which is awesome if they're fighting against people that are hidden from you. And you need only succeed at a DC 5 check to target a hidden creature, which is great. This is a great thing for a very, very specific circumstance, and I really it's great in a very, very special circumstance that having you there will make you incalculably better than every other time will do nothing.
Yes. It's, again, more feats related to methodology.
Right.
So for 10th level, I took Suspect of Opportunity. So it's once per hour. Sometimes something intrudes upon your case unexpectedly, such as an ambush, to bring your investigation to a close. You've learned how to compartmentalize your main case and open a new one. Again, it's more in the role-playing. Again, it's another opportunity to switch between cases, giving you the bonuses against another opponent or another individual, so that you're not just stuck, I only get +1 on this vampire that we're still trying to find something else that the GM is throwing at me.
This is another level where I didn't really care for any of them. I did choose just one more thing, which is if your most recent action was to feint, request, or demoralize, but you failed.
Yes.
Well, after your attempt to influence someone goes poorly, you add another bit of information or ask a pointed question, possibly saving your previous attempt. Reroll the failed check and use the new roll.
Right.
You can't use it against a single creature more than once every 24 hours. And also, if you use it, you can also use just one more thing if you failed but didn't critically fail to check a lie, gather information, make an impression, or to coerce. In this case, rather than taking one action, adding just one more thing takes you half the amount of time you initially spent on the check with a minimum of one more round, because a lot of these are minute to be able to do them.
Right.
Overall, all 3 of the 10th level choices are mediocre.
Okay. Yeah. They're okay at best. I agree. There's, like I said, the Suspect of Opportunity is a really good one in a role playing, but it's still overall the choices are okay. So that's our 10th level selection.
So I think really the overall point about this class is we really enjoy the class. We really enjoy the way the class works. We really enjoy its role-playing aspect. We enjoy its basic methodology of how you can play around with it. Some of the feats are kind of weak, especially at the higher levels, but it's, again, really hard to balance these kinds of things, so I don't blame them. This is where you might, instead of going into the Investigator feats, you might just choose to multi-class at that point. Because since you have such a high intelligence, maybe you multi-class into Alchemist, or you multi-class into Wizard or something. It gives you a lot of options to be able to play around with to have more fun with the character. Either way, we think that this is a good character to be able to play, especially for a role-playing heavy game, and it still works in a combat-heavy game. And in fact, for any non-combat portion of it, you will probably dominate the playtime, which is also not necessarily a good thing.
Right. But if you take the right skills and help all your friends, sort of that semi-bard, they can be involved in all of those investigations and things like that, getting those bonuses.
Yeah, the problem is that when you're doing your perception check and you get master perception at level 7 and everyone else gets it at level 13, and you're like, yes, my perception check is 5 better than yours. How about you help me with this? I mean, you basically get to a point where you only roll if I roll poorly.
Yes.
And that does take away some of the fun. But again, it's a role-playing character, and it's good depending on who you're playing with, and you can still make it a good combat character for something that you want to play a little different. Or, of course, if you wanted to just make Sherlock Holmes, go right ahead.
Right. So I definitely would like to end this by saying out of the 4 classes, this is my favorite. I hope they don't nerf it significantly, but I also hope they change or add feats at the higher level to just more related to the methodologies. And any last thoughts?
Well, the last thing we have to talk about, of course, is that our next video is going to involve
the Swashbuckler.
Swashbuckler is quite legitimately my least favorite class before they put in some of the dumb ones in Pathfinder 1. Least favorite, we didn't let people play it because we thought it was way too overpowered with the way some of things work. It is definitely not anywhere near as overpowered in this edition, but we will talk about that later. But obviously, I have a negative connotation going into it entirely because, oh my god, did I hate it in first edition.
I have no opinion because I never really played it or looked at it in the first edition, so I will just examine it as a second edition version. But with that said, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please let us know in the notes what you think about our analysis. If you want a further description of any of the classes beyond 10th level, please, again, write a little note to us. Like, subscribe, social distance, and be safe.
And notification button because,
Yes.
Why not?
We come up with videos every so often. Thank you very much. And this is Borden Sadum telling you, please be safe.
Boredom sated.
Did I say Satan?
No, you said Sadum.